And I thought what we could do is just go right to the Bible account that deals with that. Your kingdom will be yours again after you come to know that the heavens are ruling. So that is the dream that King Nebuchadnezzar had. But as we discussed last week, that dream is actually a prophecy. Now it's important to remember that similar to other prophecies in the book of Daniel, this prophecy points forward to God's kingdom with Jesus Christ as ruler. So what I thought we could do today is look at some specific points of this prophecy and to see the relationship between God's kingdom and the year 1914. And this article has a fantastic chart here that provides some great visuals that we can go over. And I also made a few notes for myself additionally. So if you don't mind, maybe we could just spend the next few minutes and consider this.
Sure, that sounds good. I always enjoy talking about the Bible.
Great. Well, let's get started. What do you see in that first box there?
An enormous tree. Is this the tree that we just read about in the prophecy?
That's exactly it. And in the second box, you'll notice that there's a picture of an axe. And that indicates that the tree was chopped down. But what happens next?
It says, let 7 times pass.
Yeah. And so a period of time went by, and then eventually the tree grew again. So those are the basic pieces to the puzzle. We've got this enormous tree. It gets chopped down. 7 times pass, and then eventually the tree grows again. Well, that's the prophecy, but what we want to know is, what does it actually mean? Well, the chart helps us out there as well. Notice underneath it mentions rulership. So the tree signifies rulership. Now, logically, if that's the case, if it's spoken of as being chopped down, then that rulership would be interrupted. Someone's rulership. Then there'd be an interval of time that would pass, and then eventually that rulership would be restored again. So does that explanation seem reasonable?
I think so.
Good. Well, then let's consider the fulfillment of the prophecy. Now, as we can see from our chart, there's both an initial fulfillment and a larger one. Mm-hmm. Let's just spend a few minutes considering the first one. So who is pictured by that tree?
Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon.
Excellent. And the tree would be an apt depiction of Nebuchadnezzar because, like that tree, he was very prominent and very powerful as the king of Babylon. But, also like that tree, he was chopped down, so to speak, when he lost his sanity and could no longer continue ruling. Now, according to the chart, how long did that last?
It says 7 literal years.
That's it. So after those 7 years, Nebuchadnezzar regained his sanity and began ruling again. So let's just recap kind of what we've considered so far. Who is pictured in this first fulfillment by the tree?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Good. And how is he chopped down?
He loses his sanity.
That's it. And for how long?
7 years.
True. And after that 7 years, he regained his sanity and then began ruling again. Now, does that make sense?
Yes. But what does this have to do with God's kingdom in 1914?
That's a great question. Well, we know there's a larger fulfillment of this prophecy because Jesus himself spoke about it. See later in the chart here, it refers to Luke 21 and verse 24. Notice what Jesus said. Jerusalem will be trampled on until the appointed times of the nations are fulfilled. Well, what did he mean by that? Well, notice here in the first box down at the bottom, it says Israelite kings who represent God's rulership. Well, those kings are also represented by that tree. So that line of kings is really the larger fulfillment of that. Now, you might remember the Bible referred to these kings as sitting on Jehovah's throne. That's because God appointed them to rule over his chosen people at the time, the Israelites. Unfortunately, as years went by, most of those kings became disobedient to God. And in turn, their subjects did the same. So eventually, Jehovah saw fit to destroy Jerusalem in 607 BCE. After that point, no more earthly kings figuratively sat on Jehovah's throne. So it's as though God's rulership was interrupted. Now, according to the chart, how long did that interruption last?
The chart says 2,520 years.
Exactly. So if we calculate 2,520 years from the time Jerusalem was destroyed in 607 That brings us all the way to 1914. And that is when Jesus began ruling in heaven as king of God's kingdom. I know it's a lot to take in, but does that explanation make sense?
I think so, but I still have some questions. Where do you get this 2,520 years? How do you know that that's the period of time? And how do you know for sure that this prophecy is about God's kingdom? Is it possible that the kingship would be restored right here on earth, in Jerusalem?
Those are all excellent questions. And we've taken in a lot of information here. But the best thing for us to do to really get the answer is to look at it in light of the complete Bible. Because that will assure us that this is definitely a heavenly kingdom, and we can find scriptural texts that point to this number, 2,520. So what if the next time I come, we consider those specific scriptures and also the remainder of this article? And I think you're going to find it answers the rest of your questions.
Sure, that sounds good. Is there some way that I could download this electronically? I'd like to take a look at this chart some more.
Absolutely. Let me show you how to get on our website. The site is jw.org. So when you go to the site, you just go up to Publications, and then from there, you choose Magazines.